Okay, we're going to do page 2 of chapter 4. Start off with a sociologist. This person or people studies people's relationships to one another. They study infant survival rates, life expectancies, literacy rates, and standards of living as they're trying to describe why and how these people live in certain areas and why they live the way they do. So I had a sociology class at college, and the professor seemed like almost every day he came in and he said, "Why do we do the things we do?" And again, that's why do we do the things we do? It's a cultural thing, but it's a social thing. Okay, the word sociologist, a society, also comes from that word. So again, sociology as a group of people, why do we do certain things? Now, a side note, if a person is trying to decide why do you as an individual do the certain things that you do, then that would of course be a psychologist. And then there's some little cartoons here. I'd text you, but I haven't learned to spell yet. It's amazing how many, elementary kids have cell phones. Over here, this couple sitting in front of the sociology department, kind of a funny one. I love our lunches out here, but I always get the feeling that we're being watched. So, yeah, the sociology department, there's probably kids in there with binoculars observing their behavior, okay? Nothing creepy, but just, as a sociologist, trying to understand their behavior. Okay? Standard of living, then, measures the quality of life based on available material goods. Do you have a roof overhead? Do you have enough food to eat, clothes to wear? Do you have education, health care? Are you protected? Fire, police? All of those kinds of things would be factors in the standard of living. But something also to consider, if you look at these pictures relative to our society and what we have, these pictures might seem like, well, these people are very poor, but what if this person lives very well? So it's relative. That might be a common, typical house for them in that area. Okay, subsistence farming is growing just enough food for themselves, their immediate family, maybe a few extended family members. Also, they might have a little bit, extra food that they could sell at a local market. But again, for the most part, they're raising that food to be eaten by their family, and enough for them to subside on. Okay, compared to commercial farming or commercial agriculture, where the food crops and animals are produced chiefly for sale. So that farmer or rancher or whatever it is, they're producing those items mainly to be sold, and that's how they gain their income and their livelihood. So the cows are going to produce milk. The milk would be sold, made into products. This crop, I'm not sure what that one is. They would, again, sell that item. The farmer or person, they could, they would maybe use a little bit of that, but the main part is to be sold. I put a bee in there because my father was a beekeeper, and that's a real interesting industry to be involved in. Okay, an industry is a business that produces goods or services. So there's an easy way to kind of understand the difference between the two. So if it produces goods, that means it's something that you can hold. It's tangible. You go and you buy a car. You pay money, you have a car. You have something physical you can touch. Whereas services are intangible. You can't touch them really. So you go to the water park. You pay your money, you get in, you have your fun, you go home. You don't have anything you can hold from that. You have an experience. You go to Disneyland, you pay your airfare and you go on a plane to Hawaii. When you return, okay, you don't have anything to hold unless you buy souvenirs, which are goods, but you've had an experience, okay? So that airplane ride is a service. There's banking, insurance, tourism, Those are some other service areas, service industries. Okay? Developed countries, so we're going to talk about developed versus developing countries. I just love this picture up here. Developed countries generally have adequate food, clothing, and housing, along with good health care and education for their people. And then on the next slide, it'll say developing countries generally do not, and few attend school. Okay? So developed countries. Now, as we look at this, I hope you can see in the video, so up at the top, it says developing countries. I actually wish they had reversed those, because this obviously would be the better one, put it up on top. But anyway, in the picture you can see there's an old ratty kind of dumpster. This part of the road is dirt. It might be oil out there. There's a cow and a couple of dogs kind of rummaging through the garbage. The garbage is loose in the bin and out on the ground. There's some birds there. There's dirt in the background. The building's fine, but anyway, that exemplifies what a developing country would look like, as opposed to this one, which is a developed country. Okay, you've got a nice, clean paved road, sidewalks. You've got nice dumpsters. They're painted. They're in good shape. The garbage is in bags inside the dumpster. And to top it off, you've got a Mercedes-Benz garbage truck. So I just really like that picture. You could look at it and see the difference between developed and developing countries. Developing countries, again, generally do not have all of those things in that previous list, and few attend school. So I bring this up with my class, how many of them, given the chance or choice, wouldn't be in school? And there's a few hands up, a few nods. But what they don't realize is, yes, we require you to be here in school, and sometimes you may not find it the most fun thing to do. You might get bored, you're tired of it, you don't want to do the work, whatever. But when you look at these conditions that these people live in, their children that are 13, 14, 15, and even younger, may not even have the option of going to school. They would like to, but they have to work to help support the family. And so we oftentimes take it for granted that we have school and education. And so when it's given in that way, maybe our students might look at it a little bit differently. Okay? The next one is a birth rate. So we figure the number of births per year for every 1,000 people. So the areas in white have less than 1.5% growth. The areas with the darkest red are over 4% of population growth. And then what I have the kids do is look at this map and kind of observe and make an observation and kind of just describe it. Just what are you looking at? What do you see? And hopefully what they see in that is the areas that are in white that have less than 1.5% growth are developed countries or developed areas of the earth. Whereas the places that have the color, and especially the darkest colors, are those that are developing countries or areas. So the United States, Canada, you've got Western Europe, all of Europe, you've got Russia, China, even though China has a large population, they're a developed country. Japan, Korea, here's Australia, and so those are the areas that are developed nations. Okay, the death rate is the number of deaths a year per 1,000 people. And when we look at this one, the lightest color is tan at less than 5%, and the darkest kind of purple area is over 11%. But as you look at this one and think about the previous map and think of developed versus developing countries, there's really no rhyme or reason. It could be war, it could be homicides. Some countries have guns, some countries do not, as far as allowing their citizens. Again, I'm a supporter of guns. I agree with our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. So it's not the gun that's killing the person, it's the person, okay? They don't have to. I have guns at home. The guns aren't killing people. It's me that's not doing that, okay? So it's not the gun, it's the person. But you could say that access to them may cause that, but there's a lot of different ways that, that you could injure or harm someone. So again, no real rhyme or reason. What about our diet here in the United States? Could that be a factor? We have a lot of food and access to food and things to enjoy. Do we have too much? Okay, population density is talking about the average number of people per square mile. So kind of an interesting picture here with the United States. You've got half of the country to the east. You can see how many more lights or areas are lit up versus the west, where again there's quite a few areas, but not as many as in the eastern part. I think this is a picture of Seoul, Korea, where I served a mission. 10 million people, but I never really felt crowded in that area. Not everyone has a car, and so I quite enjoyed that. Another picture of Korea. I do remember walking down sidewalks like that, and for the most part, you kind of had to just keep your hands in your pocket and just be real rigid, okay, because you'd get bumped around if you didn't. But that's normal for those people. Okay, the world's major religions. So we've got Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. And with each of these religions, there are subgroups. Like Christianity, there's, in our area, the LDS Church is the predominant religion. There's Roman Catholic, there's Protestant, there's Baptist, there's many, many Christian religions. And the same with some of these others. They have different groups, different aspects of those main religions. Okay, and our final one on page 2 is civilization. So the definition there, a culture that has built cities, developed writing, and achieved development in arts, sciences, government, and business. So, as we look at world history, we talk about the Greek civilization or Egyptian civilization, Roman, China and India. So these groups that have developed these things are called civilizations. So the world history class itself is called World Civilizations. Okay, so that ends page 2. Thank you.